The global tennis community was about to witness a profoundly thrilling, wildly unpredictable spectacle. It was simply the most mesmerizing saga unraveling at the current Miami Open. Spectators glued to their screens were observing the very bedrock of the Women's Tennis Association completely reorganize itself. This was an absolute earthquake, hurling massive tremors straight over the Atlantic Ocean. The sheer magnitude of this moment left the entire German nation utterly stunned, simultaneously setting millions of Filipino supporters and international tennis enthusiasts ablaze with pure, undeniable ecstasy. One singular headline thoroughly commanded every prominent athletic broadcasting network. It completely overwhelmed online feeds and monopolized every single racket sport discussion, bordering on the miraculous. Germany reeled in pure shock as the unstoppable Filipina powerhouse Alexandra Eala officially secured a blockbuster showdown against the iconic German three-time Grand Slam victor Laura Siegemund. This was hardly some forgettable opening stage hit-and-run battle. It was a colossal round of 16 collision at the esteemed Miami Open, a WTA 1000 tournament marking the ultimate apex of the spring hardcourt campaign. The contest meant far more than a routine fixture on an exhausting athletic schedule. It represented a monumental, generation-defining impact, a captivating warfare of contrasting philosophies, and a brutal trial of psychological endurance beneath the boiling Florida skies. Waiting on one side of the baseline stood a 20-year-old phenomenon birthed from the globally acclaimed Rafa Nadal Academy, fiercely shouldering the massive aspirations and soaring national pride upon her remarkably broad shoulders. Alexandra Eala refused to merely exist as a background participant on the professional circuit. The prodigy aggressively shattered the traditional pecking order, validating her elite status through every single blistering left-handed forehand she unleashed. Hovering fiercely across the divide stood the 38-year-old powerhouse, Laura Siegemund, a war-tested, strategically masterful veteran. The German warrior had witnessed every trick, executed every play, and triumphed atop the most magnificent arenas the athletic world offered, flaunting an astonishing portfolio featuring 3 Grand Slam championships across doubles and mixed events, alongside the highly coveted WTA Finals tiara. The profound bewilderment pulsing across German borders originated from a tangled web of reverence, anxiety, and fiercely rooted patriotic spirit. European broadcasting pundits and die-hard baseline fanatics were fiercely observing their highly decorated, aging heroine, an athlete celebrated for her wickedly cunning, unconventional, and maddeningly lethal tactical execution, march onto the battlefield against a horrifyingly explosive and noticeably undaunted teenage phenomenon. A suffocating suspense completely choked the atmosphere. The European crowd remained painfully conscious that Siegemund, having ruthlessly clawed her way through the tournament brackets by exhibiting the exact relentless ferocity that perfectly summarized her 18-year profession, stood dead in the terrifying path of an Alexandra Eala Category 5 storm. Spectators had witnessed the Filipina viciously shred the global leaderboards over the preceding 12 months. Crowds watched the youngster execute absolute giants of the baseline, leaving everyone universally gasping for oxygen, pondering whether their veteran conqueror possessed the strategic genius to completely extinguish the youthful challenger's explosive artillery. Fully grasping the sheer magnitude of this historical round of 16 bloodshed required a deep dive into the suffocating environment and the astronomically elevated risks. Hosted inside the towering Hard Rock Stadium located within Miami Gardens, the legendary competition earned its moniker as the 5th major. The battleground was defined by merciless temperatures, bone-crushing moisture, and a fiercely electrifying, deafening audience demanding absolute theatrical perfection from the contenders. The asphalt surfaces famously bounced fast, handsomely compensating those who struck with murderous intent, yet the brutal climate relentlessly interrogated an athlete's biological durability and psychological ironclad resolve. Surviving into the tournament's latter half meant surviving the round of 16, an incredible milestone demanding safe passage through an absolute slaughterhouse of elite international talent. Reaching these dizzying heights merely extended the skyrocketing trajectory of Alexandra Eala's extraordinary career. Just 12 months prior, the phenom landed as an unknown qualifier stationed beyond the top 100, only to exit an absolute executioner, horrifying the establishment by assassinating 3 major title holders, featuring a mythological conquest against Iga Swiatek. Currently, the prodigy came back shedding her dark horse status, emerging instead as a seeded juggernaut, comfortably barricaded within the highest 30 global rankings, demanding total reverence while injecting sheer terror into challengers. The phenomenal voyage across the preceding year, highlighted by a breakthrough semi-final crusade during 2025, coupled with recent ruthless campaigns at Indian Wells, violently clashing against Coco Gauff and Diana Yastremska, plus a dominant quarterfinal push at the Dubai Championships, certified that the ultimate master plan had perfectly materialized. Unfiltered, chaotic promise had fully mutated into elegant, catastrophic lethality. For Laura Siegemund, successfully penetrating the round of 16 during a WTA 1000 tournament this late into an exceptionally epic timeline undeniably showcased her immortal genius and undying bloodlust. The solo competitor rarely found easy passage at the 1000 tier, historically suffering painfully premature eliminations across Miami's scorching courts during previous campaigns. During the current season, however, the veteran completely rewrote her narrative. The German shattered expectations, violently hushing critics who endlessly wondered if her aging body could survive alongside the aggressive teenagers dominating professional brackets. Delivering an absolute clinic regarding strategic play, the seasoned athlete unleashes decades of elite wisdom and breathtaking finesse. Employing brilliant spatial awareness, the veteran masterfully traps unseasoned, lightning-fast rivals into impossible corners. Reaching the round of 16 with unyielding dominance explains exactly why the entire German nation buzzes with electric anticipation. Millions observe an awe-inspiring Twilight revival, marking an incredibly stubborn battle fought by their cherished legend. Placing these contrasting competitors together generates an overwhelmingly magnetic tale. Audiences witness an age-old legend featuring a ruthless rookie attempting to dethrone an infinitely cunning, war-hardened gladiator. Alexandra Eala unleashes an explosive, deeply physical baseline assault. The prodigy glides across the concrete seamlessly, establishing flawless positioning to launch devastating, heavyweight rallies. Furthermore, her lethal southpaw delivery relentlessly drags frantic defenders entirely outside the playable boundaries. Meanwhile, Laura Siegemund resurrects ancient defensive arts, weaponizing old-school tactics for today's hyper-aggressive tours. The cunning competitor deploys maddeningly unpredictable backhand chops alongside relentless trickery, spectacular short balls, brilliantly orchestrated baseline charges, and an intellectual mastery of the sport bordering on sheer genius. Winning is never enough for the mastermind. Inflicting absolute psychological agony remains her ultimate objective. Shattering a rival's tempo while sparking terrifying moments of desperation fuels her fire. Consequently, this upcoming collision absolutely mesmerizes spectators, since such magic has never unfolded before. The duo lacks any shared history across the professional circuit. Analysts hold zero statistical data, possessing absolutely no historical battles to extract predictive theories from. An empty slate awaits the chaotic, breathtaking artistry inherent within desperately important, top-tier international tournaments. Global fans hold their breath, desperately waiting to discover whether Alexandra Eala's apocalyptic baseline artillery can shatter Laura Siegemund's impenetrable fortress of psychological warfare. Might the ferocious teenage challenger casually obliterate the seasoned European's sophisticated barricades? Alternatively, could the veteran's venomous traps, spinning trickery, and suffocating net ambushes mentally destroy the rookie, highlighting her fleeting naivety? Suffocating pressure fills the air, weaving deeply intoxicating narratives while constructing the ultimate battlefield for a legendary showdown. Detailed scrutiny must now illuminate every microscopic layer hiding inside this monstrous clash. The upcoming evaluation dissects crucial techniques, mental warfare, legendary backgrounds, and the explosive global consequences awaiting both iconic warriors alongside their fiercely loyal homelands. This single collision leaves every German citizen completely paralyzed with anticipation, while simultaneously lifting millions of screaming Filipinos into pandemonium. Moving forward toward a microscopic breakdown, detailing this breathtaking Miami Open round of 16 war remains essential for grasping the sheer gravity of such an epic contest. Observers first need to untangle the fiercely unique, spectacularly divergent roads transforming Alexandra Eala and Laura Siegemund into inevitable rivals, colliding upon the blistering neon concrete of Florida. Such intensive exploration reveals the underlying skeleton of a sporting war soaring far beyond a mere tournament progression. The showdown operates as an enthralling cultural and physical microscope, examining the Women's Tennis Association landscape during 2026. Highlighting the unbelievable explosion of Alexandra Eala proves paramount. Labeling the prodigy a mere emerging talent severely insults her staggering current trajectory. The teenager triggers an absolute structural earthquake regarding Southeast Asian racket sports. Hailing from the archipelago, a territory overflowing with rabidly fanatical athletic devotion, yet completely devoid of legendary court heritage, the rookie forged an isolated destiny. This solitary crusade ultimately pulled her toward the elite Rafael Nadal facility in Mallorca, Europe. That brutal proving ground exists solely to hammer unrefined potential into terrifying conquerors. Supervised by elite planetary mentors, and absorbing the terrifying discipline famously modeled by the institution's legendary founder, the young warrior aggressively mutated her entire combat strategy. Spectators witnessed initial sparks of majesty after she conquered the 2022 United States Open girls bracket, achieving an immortal milestone as her nation's premier major junior victor. However, graduating from youthful victories into the agonizing, savage bloodbath defining the professional women's circuit typically shatters countless golden children. Surviving necessitates an absolute overhaul regarding bodily strength, psychological armor, and strategic wisdom. While the Filipina's evolution naturally birthed agonizing hurdles, her subsequent astronomical spike in lethal capability across the previous 12 months remains horrifyingly impressive. The critical crossroad, that singular instance when planetary audiences finally recognized her deadly potential, violently erupted within this exact Floridian arena precisely 12 months prior. Invading the 2025 bracket, holding the 140th global rank, the underdog unleashed a mythological revenge rampage. Simply surviving wasn't enough. The challenger aggressively slaughtered titans, eliminating Madison Keys, steamrolling Jelena Ostapenko, and orchestrating an earth-shattering miracle by completely destroying the supreme monarch Iga Swiatek during their quarterfinal bloodbath. Demolishing Swiatek served as an absolute clinic in relentless, blood-and-guts baseline warfare. The rising star absolutely rejected intimidation, mirroring those brutal looping shots and carving devastating southpaw trajectories to shred the defense, before eventually bowing out in the Final Four against Jessica Pegula. Yet her terrifying warning shot echoed loudly throughout the women's tour. Alexandra Eala had arrived, instantly painting a massive target on the elite ranks. Leaping ahead to March 2026, she has entirely shed her underdog status. The fierce competitor now commands genuine respect among the top 30, proudly holding an unprecedented global position of 29th. Entering this high-stakes Florida tournament, the prodigy shoulders the immense pressure that accompanies a seeded competitor. Bypassing the opening stage entirely, she reaped the rewards, forged by 12 grueling months of spectacular, unwavering brilliance. Her current momentum remains absolutely terrifying. During that glamorous desert showcase just weeks ago, the phenomenal athlete displayed unbreakable mental fortitude. She clawed her way into the final 8, brutally dismantling seasoned adversaries like Sara Errani and Jasmine Paolini through pure grit. Even when tasting defeat like that razor-thin absolute war against Coco Gauff, the young gladiator demonstrated an uncanny ability to trade lethal blows with royalty, exchanging explosive ground strokes without ever surrendering a single grain of the baseline dirt. Her entire tactical arsenal relies upon breathtaking athleticism and superhuman movement, anchored by a deadly southpaw whip that mercilessly controls the tempo, alongside a remarkably steadfast, lethal double-fisted strike capable of piercing the alley to obliterate hope. Shifting focus, a radically contrasting but equally mesmerizing narrative surrounds Laura Siegemund. At 38 years of age, the seasoned veteran stands as a breathing monument to sheer survival, strategic genius, and a seemingly immortal obsession with the game. While the youthful challenger frantically drafts her explosive origin story, the older maestro is busy composing a breathtaking, beautifully intricate final opus. The German virtuoso actually launched her professional crusade back in 2006. Surviving 2 brutal decades inside this merciless, high-stakes gladiatorial arena, her legacy avoids the flashy, burn-fast trajectory of adolescent sensations. Instead, she sculpted her legend through a painstakingly deliberate, remarkably cunning harvest of triumphs, dominating tandem events while lurking as a terrifying, unpredictable threat across every solo bracket. With 3 major crowns to her name, the icon conquered the 2016 New York mixed event, alongside seizing the 2020 American and Parisian Women's Tandem Championships alongside Vera Zvonareva. Barely 2 seasons past, she snatched the glorious 2023 year-end crown, cementing her immortal supremacy against the fiercest global titans. On the solo stage, The cunning strategist perpetually represents an infuriating, unsolvable enigma for whoever stands across the net. Peaking globally at 27, she seized two magnificent dirt court trophies, dominating Bastad in 2016 before capturing glory on her native soil at Stuttgart in 2017. She absolutely refuses to rely upon brute force or blinding speed to shatter her rivals. Rather, the veteran operates as the ultimate saboteur, employing an arsenal dripping with chaotic versatility, predatory spatial awareness, and a wicked psychological mastery designed to drag adversaries into absolute misery. The mastermind deploys a suffocating, venomous underspin that practically scrapes the concrete, forcing desperate rivals to manufacture all their own power while awkwardly scooping from the floor. Few women in history wield the short ball weapon with such lethal precision. She veils the execution flawlessly before landing it with paralyzing softness. Moreover, those endless tandem campaigns forged an invincible mastery at the net. The fearless competitor constantly rushes forward, aggressively attacking off the serve or slicing deep to swarm the front court and suffocate her prey. Anarchy fuels her spirit. The moment a pristine contest devolves into a grueling, ugly trench war, the veteran feels completely at home, which leads directly to why this staggering Final 16 collision has absolutely mesmerized both the German nation and the global sports community. The battle represents a breathtaking collision of polar opposite athletic philosophies. Witness the brutal, futuristic artillery of the 20-year-old juggernaut clashing violently against the diabolical 38-year-old sorceress's limitless trickery. Strategically speaking, this upcoming combat scenario presents an intoxicatingly complex chessboard. The fiery youngster must immediately seize control, commanding the tempo from the back of the arena. Craving high-bouncing targets, the southpaw aims to detonate massive cross-court bombs directly into the veteran's weaker side. Relying on sheer ballistic trauma, the rising star intends to pin her adversary violently against the back fences, systematically stripping away the elder's capacity for wicked finesse or geometric sorcery. Consequently, pristine movement becomes a matter of survival for the favorite. The youth must remain fiercely vigilant against the chaotic blizzard of erratic speeds and vicious rotations guaranteed to fly her way. Succumbing to rage is not an option, even when the wily maestro unleashes a maddening barrage of agonizingly slow curves and utterly magical net defenses. Eala's ultimate triumph completely relies on fusing icy patience with fiercely calculated, relentless aggression. Instead of recklessly chasing miracle winners off Siegemund's flawless slices, the young powerhouse must stalk the baseline and unleash her heavy artillery only when the absolute perfect opening presents itself. Conversely, Siegemund marches onto the battlefield fully acknowledging that surviving a brutal, toe-to-toe baseline war against Eala's explosive raw power is essentially suicide. Should this chaotic clash devolve into a predictable baseline firefight, the veteran German faces imminent destruction. Consequently, Siegemund's master strategy will focus relentlessly on shattering the young star's comfortable rhythm into absolute pieces. She fully intends to guarantee that no two consecutive shots ever look remotely alike. Expect the wily veteran to unleash looping, venomous topspin drives that brutally pin Eala backward, instantly countering with wicked, skidding backhand slices that desperately drag the Filipina into highly terrifying, awkward transition zones. Another utterly mesmerizing strategic subplot surrounds the Germans' lethal deployment of the drop shot. While the rising phenom glides beautifully across the deep baseline, sprinting toward the net to chase down brilliantly. Masked droppers demands entirely different predatory instincts alongside violently explosive footwork. Sticking those delicate touch shots right out the gate will essentially force the young prodigy to frantically question her own defensive shadows, constantly scrambling her baseline positioning, dangerously dragging her forward, thereby leaving the deep court completely exposed to Siegemund's agonizingly perfect lobs and absolute laser-like passing strikes. Furthermore, the cunning tactician will ruthlessly hunt down any microscopic hesitation plaguing Eala's awkward transition game. The seasoned warrior undeniably plans to unleash the chip and charge, fiercely pouncing on vulnerable second deliveries to storm the net, forcing the teenage phenomenon to miraculously conjure absolute needle-threading passing shots while suffocating under relentless pressure. The brutally unforgiving environmental elements dominating the Miami Open will absolutely dictate how this high-stakes tactical warfare ultimately plays out. Hard Rock Stadium's concrete surface notoriously produces a significantly quicker pace and a violently higher bounce compared to the sluggish desert conditions found at Indian Wells. These explosive rebounds theoretically amplify the sheer violence of Eala's heavy topspin, letting her unleash vicious, sky-high kicks engineered to relentlessly attack the veteran's preferred strike zone. Yet, South Florida's suffocating heat and swampy humidity remain the ultimate equalizers. The agonizing physical toll exacted by surviving these punishing elements is genuinely mind-bending. Although the Filipina wields the practically limitless stamina of youth, Siegemund's phenomenal conditioning and hyper-efficient movement, forged across roughly 20 years of professional warfare, must never be overlooked. Should this clash bleed into an agonizing third set, it transforms into a torturous trial of sheer physical survival and unbreakable mental grit. Who actually possesses the raw grit to seamlessly execute their strategy when legs turn to solid lead and desperate lungs inevitably catch fire? Beyond the pure physical and tactical elements, the underlying psychological warfare guarantees absolute theater. The rising star now shoulders an incredibly heavy pressure, entirely alien compared to the simple burdens she carried 12 months prior. Back then, she thrived as the fearless, unknown-to-tangent slayer, swinging completely free, with zero consequences. Today, she enters firmly as the seeded favorite, heavily anticipated by the roaring crowds to violently overpower the fading veteran. The prodigy must somehow shoulder the crushing expectations of millions back in the Philippines, forcefully proving her magical prior campaign wasn't some lucky accident, but the terrifying new baseline of her sheer dominance. She absolutely must keep her cool when Siegemund predictably deploys utterly bizarre, maddening tactics. The teenager simply cannot let rising fury trigger a disastrous avalanche of unforced errors. Over on Siegemund's side, the psychological battlefield looks equally treacherous. She battles with the fierce, burning pride of a dying champion, fiercely refusing to vanish silently into the fading shadows. The nervous tension currently gripping all of Germany stems largely from a terrifying realization that their cherished icon might get brutally trampled by the unbridled horsepower of the next era. Siegemund will completely weaponize that energy. She gleefully accepts her villainous disruptor persona, the wily master plotting to completely outwit youth. Weaponizing her massive tour experience, she will drastically drag out the overall tempo, intentionally lingering between brutal rallies to utilize entirely legal gamesmanship, specifically engineered to permanently fracture her younger opponent's fragile concentration. The German fully understands that making this battle incredibly scrappy, terribly ugly, and wildly unpredictable drastically skyrockets her winning odds. Furthermore, we must definitely consider the astronomically high stakes defining this epic round of 16 clash. The Miami Open reigns fiercely as an elite, ultra-prestigious spectacle sitting just below the 4 legendary Grand Slams. The available ranking points and financial prizes remain downright astronomical. Should Eala conquer this round, she bags a colossal 120 points alongside over $15,000 in cold cash, rocketing her aggressively toward the fiercely coveted top 20 tier. An epic milestone forever solidifying her elite status, while locking down incredibly advantageous seedings throughout the grueling upcoming European clay court gauntlet and the legendary French Open. Furthermore, it fiercely fuels her burning ambition to strictly mirror or violently eclipse her jaw-dropping semifinal campaign from exactly 1 year prior. On the flip side, Siegemund securing this victory screams absolute defiance, decimating a heavily favored, wildly talented phenom like Eala. During a WTA 1000 blockbuster, undeniably delivers a colossal, desperately needed surge to her own fading singles ranking, yet it would simultaneously broadcast a crystal-clear message to the world. She remained a terrifying, lethal contender on the solitary stage. A triumph of this magnitude would ignite ecstatic cheers throughout her homeland, cementing her legacy as a strategic mastermind. Moreover, whoever survived this brutal encounter understood the road ahead only grew steeper. The victor was hurling themselves directly toward an earth-shattering showdown in the round of 8, staring down the barrel of the second-ranked juggernaut on the globe, provided the Polish phenom survived her own battles. The shockwaves generated by this duel would echo miles away from those legendary concrete walls. To fully grasp the sheer magnitude of this collision, one had to delve into the rich heritage defining her nation's athletic pedigree. Her country possessed an unparalleled lineage on the courts, a golden era forged by mythological figures, ranging from those legendary 90s titans to modern champions hoisting major trophies. Her compatriots demanded nothing short of perfection. While the seasoned veteran had never quite eclipsed those immortal mountain peaks on her own, she commanded fierce loyalty for her relentless grit, championship-winning partnerships, and a stubborn defiance against defeat. Analyzing this upcoming battle against the rising star, national pundits sensed impending doom for their battle-hardened hero. The young challenger represented a terrifying dawn, a ruthless, explosive mutation of the modern baseline game. Experts knew full well that although the maestro's trickery could unravel any elite opponent, the pure, unadulterated velocity rocketing off the youngster's racket might just shatter those defenses entirely. This collective panic stemmed from a chilling awe of the rookie's devastating gifts, mixed with fierce maternal dread for their fading warrior. Spectators braced for a brutal changing of the guard, a haunting realization that unrelenting youth could finally smash through the brilliant, labyrinthine traps laid by an ancient survivor. However, burying the Grandmaster before the first serve was a fatal miscalculation. Championships were never captured on mere spreadsheets, nor were they conquered by sheer velocity alone. It was a brutal chess match, demanding constant evolution and instantaneous problem-solving. And the veteran remained a lethal architect of chaos within the professional ranks. If any mortal possessed the wicked court geometry, a deep bag of tricks, and a burning desire to halt the prodigy's rampage, it was her. As the gladiators approached that blistering arena, the tension tasted metallic. Thousands of screaming fans would cram the bleachers, igniting an explosive atmosphere, while an endless sea of humanity tuned in worldwide. They were about to behold a magnificent collision of two entirely distinct universes. Lethal, skull-crushing groundstrokes were destined to crash against venomous, razor-thin drop shots. Lightning-fast agility from the absolute perimeter would face off against terrifying, psychic volleying at the mesh. The ravenous, blinding hunger of a 20-year-old phenom would strike the cold, calculated wisdom of a 38-year-old titan. Here lay the cruel, breathtaking poetry woven into the fabric of elite competition. A bloodless war where each rally demanded agonizing mental stamina, and where destiny pivoted violently on one miraculous strike or a singular, tragic mistake. Entering this perilous skirmish, neither combatant had room to breathe. Should the rookie unleash her terrifying artillery flawlessly, destruction was imminent. Yet, if the trickster spun her chaotic web, the prodigy would be swallowed whole. Compromise was a myth here. It was an apocalyptic clash of polar opposites. The planet watched intently, one nation suffocating in sheer terror, while another stood coiled, desperate to unleash joyous pandemonium. That towering stadium transformed into a coliseum, spotlighting two extraordinary combatants headlining an immortal tragedy. Every piece of history was laid bare. Every lethal strategy lay exposed. The crushing gravity of the moment had been established, alongside the torturous mental warfare simmering beneath the surface. But now, the whispers faded, the practice swings vanished, and the brutal truth of the arena beckoned. Closing the book on this massive, high-stakes collision deep in the tropical bracket between the rising prodigy and the seasoned mastermind, observers were forced to ponder exactly how this explosive showdown would rewrite the destiny of the entire tour. Stripping away the ultimate tally on the scoreboard, and forgetting which warrior would eventually scream in victory while marching onward, this bloodbath stood as a glorious monument to the terrifying talent pool, the sprawling variety of warfare, and the chaotic theater driving the global circuit in 2026. Should the young sensation walk away alive, it meant she had conquered a brutal trial by fire, proving her growing strategic mind. Bludgeoning past a rival who merely traded fast, rhythmic blows was child's play by comparison. Dismantling a seasoned warrior, someone who deploys every sly tactic, wicked spin, and unpredictable trajectory to shatter an opponent's momentum, stands as an absolutely monumental triumph. Emerging triumphant would permanently elevate her reputation far beyond that of a mere powerhouse, establishing her as an unshakable, elite gladiator who untangles complex tactical webs during suffocating, high-stakes moments. Such a victory would intensely propel her astonishing meteoric rise straight toward tennis immortality, igniting an entire country's hopes while proving that her unforgettable Miami campaign 12 months ago was simply the opening act of a truly phenomenal odyssey. On the other hand, should Laura Siegemund engineer a stunning shocker, she scripts an immortal episode into her glorious saga. The triumph would serve as an audacious, brilliant exhibition of strategic genius, demonstrating undeniably how brute force crumbles against flawless spatial awareness, delicate finesse, and a thoroughly unbreakable psychological resolve. Conquering this challenge would send rapturous tremors of celebration rippling across the German landscape, rewarding their profound admiration for her artistry while delivering a poetic message to the global athletic community that wisdom, intellect, and unyielding tenacity remain priceless weapons in professional arenas. Audiences tune in precisely for this reason, to witness these breathtaking, diametrical stylistic collisions, chasing unforeseen storylines alongside the breathtaking personal spectacles erupting inside the strict confines of those white-painted lines. Spectators gather to watch tomorrow's prodigies ruthlessly assault today's established hierarchy, while observing seasoned veterans fiercely protect their hard-earned empires from an incoming flood of youthful challengers. This spectacular showdown between Eala and Siegemund beautifully embodies every single element that renders this competition so thrillingly addictive. Gratitude is warmly extended to every spectator engaging with this meticulous, exhaustive examination of the sporting world's most monumental headline. For those captivated by this intricate strategic and retrospective narrative, followers are strongly urged to subscribe to the broadcast, endorse the presentation, and drop their ultimate battlefield forecast directly into the discussion area. The burning inquiry stands. Who claims glory in this colossal war of philosophies? Does Eala overwhelm with an avalanche of strength, or does Siegemund weave a masterful web? The audience must reveal their verdict,